The road that has led me to where I am now has been filled with the unexpected. Never once did I imagine myself about to graduate with a degree in environment and sustainability from a place called, of all things, the University of the South. My name is Olivia Maschinot, and this is my digital story. I was born into a loud, formerly Catholic family right outside of Atlanta, Georgia. With two sisters many years older than me, I developed an early sense of who I wanted to be by watching them navigate middle and high school. My dad always told me that I could be anything I wanted when I grew up, and he meant it. He helped me make a list of potential career choices, which included ballerina, scientist, astronaut, veterinarian, firefighter, chef, sumo wrestler, and Supreme Court judge. After attending a Waldorf school for kindergarten, I was a bit nervous but also excited about the prospect of beginning first grade at the local elementary school. Then came the first test of my ability to respond to the unexpected. Within 1 year, my dad died, one sister moved back in with her mother, and my other sister went off to college. The school system told my mother that since the elementary school near my house had closed a couple of years back, I might have to bounce from one school to the next until middle school. I was a shy, awkward kid who had trouble fitting in under the best circumstances, so I am grateful that I was able to stay at the Waldorf school. I developed a great love of the outdoors and hands-on learning during my time there. I learned physics through moving large fallen trees, geometry through crocheting, and eventually found my voice after being repeatedly given the loud, obnoxious roles in the yearly class play. I looked forward to my future where I imagined myself studying astrophysics in a school far up north. As I approached high school, it was time to leave my pocket of woods for a more traditional high school experience that involved football games, school dances, and AP classes. I found myself fitting in a little easier despite being around people who had years of experience with one another, and my interest in how people worked grew. I worked at a grocery store, a burger restaurant, and an organic farm, and interned in a science class at the middle school across the street. My imagined future shifted towards a degree in psychology, maybe somewhere in the Northwest. I couldn't wait to get out of the South. It was too hot, too religious, and too close to home. Then, as we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic arrived during my senior year of high school. As did many, I fried my hair with box dye and made a very lumpy wooden drum. Amidst all the uncertainty about the future, I ended up committing to Georgia State University in downtown Atlanta, a 20-minute drive down the road from my childhood home. I spent most of my time working at a pizza restaurant and taking small road trips. I slowly began to fall in love with the South. One of these trips took me to Sewanee, a school I had briefly considered before deciding that it was too southern and full of strange old traditions. While I didn't want to admit it, my first hike here felt like meeting an old friend after many years apart. Still, transferring only seemed like a vague idea, and if I were to transfer, it certainly would not be to a more southern school than the one I would be leaving. I applied just for the sake of it, fully expecting to stay at Georgia State for the next 4 years. But when my best friend and I went on a road trip that took us all the way out to Arizona, I found myself anxiously searching for the familiar pine trees, religiously themed billboards, and low rolling hills that I associated with the South as we drove home. Clearly, I ended up at Sewanee, despite being unable to commit until 3 weeks before moving in due to delays in my financial aid package. Still, I expected to receive a degree in psychology and then move far from the South. I was happy to be on the mountain. I watched sunsets at Morgan Steep, pet baby goats, and began working as a teacher's assistant at Sewanee Elementary School. Towards the end of my sophomore year, however, I still had not found my place, and I realized I had no interest in pursuing psychology long term, and what I really needed was to return to my dirt-loving roots. The next 2 years were filled with a range of experiences that had never appeared in my original college vision. I became a change bell ringer, joined OCCU, shaved my head, joined Model UN by complete accident, ended up with 12 staples in my head, worked at Clerk, volunteered in the Salamander Lab, and found a cat in the Wendy's parking lot. Last summer, I went to North Carolina to work at a camp for autistic children and adults. That job pushed me to my limits, and I was constantly coming up with new and creative ways to communicate and connect with people. I made friends who saw me in some of the most challenging situations of my life, and equally shared in my joy during some of the most rewarding experiences I have ever had. I took what I learned back to Sewanee Elementary School, which has remained a constant presence in my life, with my students acting as some of my strongest ties to the Sewanee community. During my time on this mountain, these kids have helped me understand more and more the importance of home and community. This finally led to me working with the Canale program at the beginning of my senior year of college. Working with the Indigenous Engagement Initiative has made me truly accept my love for the Southeast. During my work this year, I have communicated with Indigenous people all across the United States, and they have exposed me to many new ideas about what this land means and my place on it. We have connected over a love for this land despite our very different histories with it. Since this is IEI's first year as a Bonner site, I have mostly just been making it up as I go. While at times I question if I'm doing what I set out to, I have realized that the things I do rarely go according to plan. This initial uncertainty has turned into a sense of freedom in my work, and I've been able to keep my focus on fostering community and connection on this mountain and across the rest of the South that I've finally accepted as my home. I'm grateful for my time at Sewanee, and I'm glad to have finally found a community that accepts me for who I am. I'm excited to take what I have learned here out into the future, many years of which I am sure will be spent in the Southeast.